So GameStop's stock surging has been quite the David versus Goliath tale. Wall Street billionaires haven't been this worried since Epstein's Island was raided. It does seem this GameStop situation is coming to a close, but hey, things will never be the same. And I truthfully am happy with some of the stories I've seen in the last few weeks, whether that be someone paying off medical bills or hedge funds, losing billions of dollars and crying for the SEC to step in. Funny how they scream regulation at the sight of regular people doing what they've been doing for decades. With multiple motion pictures already in development, Hollywood smells opportunity with this story just like Harvey Weinstein could smell female talent. Turns out Amazon, who joined the games industry relatively recently, does not know what they're doing. We probably didn't need an expose to know that, but it's quite clear they attempted to jump on some of the biggest trends and failed as bad as gaming journalism having editorial standards. Regardless, Amazon has a stupid amount of money, so they'll invest further, likely eventually produce something solid, but that won't ever change the fact that Bezos has the human decency of a toilet plunger. The Assassin's Creed Valhalla community has been lodging complaints at Ubisoft for over-monetization, with half the game's outfits now being available solely through the in-game store. Look, this is what this industry has become. At every opportunity, the big players will attempt to suck you dry just a little bit more. Still though, something extremely slimy about these full-price AAA games having massive in-game stores day one, and then adding in XP boosters a number of weeks after release, once the reviews have been written and millions of copies sold. Speaking of franchises that definitely won't be bent over and milked like there's no tomorrow, EA's college football is coming back. I mean, millions are ecstatic by this announcement, probably including Todd Howard. EA also purchased racing developer Codemasters and has already said new racing games every year. Speaking of franchises that will bend you over and milk you like there's no tomorrow, Grand Theft Auto Online continues breaking records, while Grand Theft Auto 5 surpasses 140 million copies sold. You wonder why Grand Theft Auto 6 is taking so long. This is why. No need to rush when the nearly 8-year-old game somehow is still selling like when Nose Candy first hit the USA. Embracer Group made headlines with the purchase of Gearbox Software. Maybe Randy Pitchford can finally pay his employees the bonuses he promised them with Borderlands 3. The Swedish video game holding company Embracer now owns developers and publishers such as THQ Nordic, Volition, Warhorse Studios, 4A Games, Aspire Media, Piranha Bytes, Flying Wild Hog, and now Gearbox. In total, Embracer has 58 internal studios with about 5,700 employees. Interestingly, one of those studios, Aspire Media, which was acquired this month, is rumored to be the developer behind the mysterious and secret Star Wars KOTOR remake. Warner Brothers revealed that their upcoming games will have a heavy focus on live service, essentially meaning they're about to piss all over us R. Kelly style. But today we have a lot of gaming news to break down, and you probably should consider subscribing, turning notifications on, liking the video, and leaving a comment below with your thoughts. And if you do want to further support the channel, there's also my Patreon. Doubling down on live services is not the only annoying thing Warner Brothers did recently, as they successfully patented their Nemesis system mechanic. Nothing hypocritical about that, except the crapload of mechanics Warner Brothers development teams have borrowed from other games, especially with the Middle-earth games, which feature heavily that Assassin's Creed formula, along with the Arkham combat system. Just think about so many mechanics, whether that be fast travel, dialogue trees, day and night cycle, lockpicking minigame, character customization, and imagine if their original inventors had restricted the use of those mechanics. Picture if the original Doom's fast-paced action had been patented. Games like System Shock and Duke Nukem 3D might not exist. Hell, Grand Theft Auto might not be the juggernaut it is today without 1999's Driver, which truly redefined gaming. The thing is, game mechanics just should not be allowed to be patented. People forget or don't know that Bandai Namco held onto a patent for 20 years, up until 2015, which allowed mini-games and loading screens. So if you didn't know why most games had boring old text during loading screens, it's because of that greedy decision primarily. As is the case again now, all Warner Brothers is doing is killing potential innovation, and many developers have spoken out, outraged by what has happened. Fallout New Vegas director and lead designer Josh Sawyer saying, "What a load of crap. If you take someone's design and make a better version of it, you should be given a trophy and a triumph through the streets, and the people who made the previous version should applaud you and say, wow, that was really cool. Like, I didn't want to before, but this actually makes me want to make a Nemesis variant because this is so stupid." As many have pointed out, the wording is also very broad enough to bully smaller indie developers who can't afford a legal fight. One does have to wonder how enforceable this actually is, but regardless, this certainly will and can dissuade creativity for the next 20 or so years, as long as this patent lasts, which I believe is 2035, which really sucks because the Nemesis system is great. The ability to have engaging, randomly generated enemies that remember past fights with you and can gain strength by defeating you or lose their dignity with defeat, and so on and so forth. This is a mechanic that should be tinkered with and made better, but that likely will not happen now, at least for a long time, and at least outside of Warner Brothers. Unfortunately though, while it's good this situation has received a great deal of attention, it is nothing new. Like Bluebird Team's The Medium was a cool game, but again, the unique core mechanic of the game has been patented. Don't even get me started with what Electronic Arts, Activision, Blizzard, and Take-Two Interactive have tried patenting over the years. Overall, the point is corporations will do what corporations do. Creativity and innovation will always trail far behind potential profit. One company that knows that better than anybody is Electronic Arts. Their history of just decimating studios and franchises is well documented. EA is to single-player franchises as Pineapple is to pizza, and yes, I stand by that. That's the truth. EA's biggest and most beloved single-player developer, BioWare, has seen a fall from graces in recent years, with their last two games, Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem, being giant, huge disappointments. This modern BioWare is also a shell of the developer that made award-winning revolutionary games like KOTOR, Dragon Age Origins, and Mass Effect. Over the last number of years, left and right, the studio has lost its key talent and leadership, which raises questions about whether or not BioWare even has a future. Most recently, BioWare lost its general manager Casey Hudson and executive producer Mark Dara, who both departed at the end of 2020 suddenly. Hudson, a longtime BioWare developer from the early days, had left the company before in 2014 and returned in 2017 to become the leader of the studio. He came back to clean up a giant mess and just, I guess, gave up about 3.5 years later. Dara, another senior and veteran developer at BioWare for over 20 years, was known for his work on the Dragon Age franchise and really had become one of the core leaders at BioWare. All of this not exactly inspiring. Anyway, during EA's quarterly conference call, these departures along with BioWare's future were brought up. CEO Andrew Wilson saying on BioWare, "That is an incredible studio filled with incredible people who do incredible work. I think that from the outside world, there have been some blips in their delivery in the last couple of years, but that's the result of them pushing deeply into innovation and creativity." Boys and girls, that's what I like to call a pretty obvious lie. If you're going to tell me Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem were pushing innovation, I would simply ask, where? Those games lacked the quality many had come to expect from a studio that at one point was at the top. Additionally, from what we know thanks to exposés, the BioWare developers absolutely hate the Frostbite engine that they're forced to use, because it was never intended for open-world role-playing games and has brought numerous headaches and problems. Recently, we also found out that Mass Effect Andromeda was limited from the start, with multiple alien species cut due to budget, scope, and cosplay. The only thing that was innovative or different was the flying mechanics of Anthem, I suppose, and even the rest of the game tried replicating mechanics from much better experiences like Warframe and Destiny. In regards to BioWare's recent high-profile departures, EA's CEO downplayed them, saying, "With respect to Casey and Mark leaving, again, both good friends of mine, we have tremendous respect for both of them, but this happens in the natural course of creative organizations from time to time, and we feel very, very, very good about the ongoing leadership of that studio and the main people who come to work every day to deliver more innovation and creativity." The issue with this statement is the fact that in recent years, BioWare has lost the following veteran developers: their art and animation director Neil Thompson, technical director Jaquise LeBron, lead designer Chris Schoenberg, GM Aaron Flynn, GM Casey Hudson, executive producer Mark Dara, creative director Mike Laidlaw, lead producer Ben Irving, head of live services Chad Robertson, senior editor Cameron Harris, senior development director Chris Wynn, lead animator Stephen Gilmore, lead writer David Gator, lead producer Fernando Mello, lead writer Drew Karpashin, lead writer Chris Slurf, lead designer Ian Frazier, and lead designer James Olin, and that's only the developers, the veterans that we know of. The amount of talent BioWare has lost is why I've said that the BioWare of old is just gone. They've moved on. EA continues to try and spin all of these departures as something positive when in reality, this is a studio in trouble. That's exactly why the teases for the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect games do nothing for me. Interestingly, the one game that did not at all come up or was mentioned by EA during this conference call was BioWare's Anthem. You know, the game that was supposed to be getting an Anthem 2.0 sometime soon? and there's a reason for that. Based on reporting coming from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, it's not even certain Anthem Next will happen. Turns out this week, EA's executives will review the latest version of Anthem Next and decide whether to expand the team or abandon the project. The biggest problem I've always had with Anthem 2.0 is the fact that I don't know where the audience is for this. How would it be monetized? How different can such a small team make this game after a year of development? Competitors like Destiny have hundreds of developers working on it, and Anthem Next has had about 30 developers, with the leader of the project a few months ago moved to Dragon Age 4. None of this has inspired hope, but it does feel like a slap in the face to the few who have stayed with this game if Anthem Next does in fact just get abandoned by Electronic Arts. In October of last year, BioWare showed off some of the overhauls they had made to the game's UI, and definitely appears that BioWare was heavily taking inspiration from Destiny, but it looked better. It inspired hope for the small amount of players that still care and play Anthem to this day, but now it seems this project may never even see the light of day. I'm still skeptical developing Anthem 2.0 Next, whatever it's called, was at all smart, but everyone wants a No Man's Sky story these days for these dumpster fires, and it feels dumb just to abandon all of this work at this point, but hey, I mean, EA will do what's in EA's best interest, and certainly creativity will never come first. It's always going to be about the money. Either way, the next BioWare game is actually Mass Effect Legendary Edition, a remaster I'm actually excited for, although it has already garnered some controversy, with the removal of butt shots or some of the butt angles. Personally, I could care less, found them a bit comical back in the day, but I would say if this was something so minor, why even bother removing it? I wouldn't call it censorship, but why does Jin Sakai's butt shot in Ghost of Tsushima get love, but this is seen as offensive and dated? In other news, Activision Blizzard has had quite a bit of Call of Duty trouble as of late. Warzone players have been throwing around pay-to-win accusations with a skin that was unlocked or purchased through the premium battle pass. The Rose Rook skin is entirely black without any reflective surfaces, which made it very difficult to see in dark areas. This is one of those instances where the "it's just cosmetic microtransaction" defense doesn't work, as yes, there are competitive advantages that can come from cosmetics, and how they blend in with the environment. Players have called for its removal, but it seems those complaints have gone nowhere. Now, a more significant issue is hackers, and Warzone specifically has done a poor job at stopping this. Activision recently banned around 60,000 accounts and firmly stated they have zero tolerance to this illegal activity, and hackers laughed as they just created a new account. Ultimately, you'll never be able to stop cheating completely, but I think most players would like to see some actual bloody urgency to stop it, like investing in building anti-cheat software as well as communicating with players about their efforts to combat the shenanigans would be great. While Activision deals with in-game issues with their Call of Duty franchise, they are now facing a huge lawsuit over a Call of Duty Modern Warfare character. As Kotaku reports, Clayton Hagen claims that he created the Cade Janus character years ago, developed as part of a film pitch, and went so far as to work with streamer Alex Zedra to bring Janus to life. Hagen alleges that Activision became aware of his work through his social media and then became interested in bringing his character into the game as Mara. The lawsuit claims that Activision used his photos as guides for how to frame their own images, hired the same talent, Alex Zedra, to play the same character, asked Zedra to ask Hagen for the same clothing and gear that she wore when he created the original photos, hired the same makeup professional and directed the makeup and hair to be identical, even using the same hairpiece extension. There's also various images comparing the original photo shoot versus Activision promotional material of Mara in Modern Warfare, and it's just extremely blatant with how they ripped his work off. It even appears one of his photos was literally stolen and photoshopped with some contrast added, headphones added, and her turtleneck color changed from blue to brown. Doesn't get more obvious than that with where their inspiration came from. Either way, Hagen is looking to recover all monetary remedies from defendants' infringement, including all of their profits attributable to their infringements, along with recouping his costs and legal fees. I would definitely say he has a case based on what's been shown in these filings, which makes it pretty darn obvious that someone from Activision wanted and did copy the look of this character from Modern Warfare. Certainly an argument could have been made that it's just a smoke show with guns, somewhat generic, but when you use the same model, then copy your makeup, hairstyle, clothing, poses, and then on top of that photoshoot the original copyrighted material, you're telling on yourself. This appears to be a pretty open and shut case from my point of view. Google Stadia, the streaming service that always seemed to have been destined to be taken behind the shed and put out of its misery, is, well, being taken behind the shed and put out of its misery. Google has shut down its internal studios already and canceled multiple projects with over 100 developers let go. The key veteran talent they brought in to oversee game creation, Jade Raymond, who is best known for her work on the Assassin's Creed franchise, has now left Google. The plan now is for Stadia to continue to operate and for Google to work with partners seeking a gaming solution all built on Stadia's advanced technical infrastructure and platform tools. To summarize, they're going to do what they've been doing but are abandoning plans to actually create worthwhile experiences that give players a reason to play on Stadia over other platforms. The issue with this strategy is the fact that what Stadia has been doing for the most part is not unique. Just because you're first to the party doesn't mean you're destined for success. Amazon has entered the streaming wars with Luna, there's Nvidia's GeForce Now, PS Now has been around for some time, and Microsoft's xCloud takes advantage of Xbox Game Pass, arguably the best service in gaming. So, Google now plans to rely solely on the technology behind Stadia, which is quite something. It certainly seems like Google is trying to say they're still committed while at the same time waving the white flag. Google's week of bad news continued when one of its most anticipated indie games abandoned plans of a Stadia release. Terraria's co-creator took to Twitter venting about how Google suspended his studio's account with no reason and decided not to clarify why they took this action. The indie studio has been locked out of 15 years of resources for nearly a month and had never violated Google's rules. The indie developer still has no idea what they did wrong and blasted Google for their terrible communication and officially canceled their Stadia release, saying they will never support their platforms again. As Bethesda prepares to move under Microsoft as a subsidiary, some growing pains from the last few years have come to an end. Fallout 76 was an absolute train wreck. We all know that. No need to dive deep into the game's history, although I do have a video that explores all that, but at launch many felt duped and wanted refunds, but Bethesda conveniently had a refund policy which just essentially did not allow that. So what that forced many fans into doing was taking legal action, and that came via Migliaccio and Rathod LLP law firm, who in late 2018 announced that they were investigating Bethesda Game Studios for releasing a heavily glitched game, Fallout 76, and refusing to issue refunds for PC purchasers of the game who found it to be unplayable because of its technical problems. The next update on this situation would come in early 2019 when the law firm revealed that they could not take on a class action lawsuit due to an arbitration clause in the game's EULA, so instead they had to send hundreds of individual demand letters, which they did. Bethesda either had to respond to the claims and try and settle them, or take on each case in the court of law. Finally, about 2 years later, it appears this case is over and has been settled. A big shout out to one of my viewers who sent this in. The Fallout 76 players that demanded a refund received compensation of $80 to $100 and were forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement. As you might expect, and as was the case with the Australian Fallout 76 refunds, ZeniMax or Bethesda denied all wrongdoing, but at the end of the day, the players got their money back. As should have been the case a long time ago, but these corporations love to drag these things out to deter actions like this. As Fallout 76 stands in 2021, it seems like attention has decreased quite a bit with time, but there still is a community attached to this experience, a stable player base. The game still has many issues, from bugs to monetization to design choices, but I think many, including myself, have just moved on. Still though, some things promised years ago, even before release, like mod support, still is not here. Funny how the feature that really can't be monetized has been thrown to the side and just kind of forgotten by many. As was the case with Fallout 4, modding can get in the way with microtransactions, and as we've learned in recent years, especially with Fallout 76, Bethesda certainly loves to nickel and dime at every opportunity. Unfortunately, this will be the only Fallout content for years, with a Fallout 5 about a decade away if Bethesda continues its pace of releasing games. Maybe Fallout New Vegas 2 will happen, but for now, there's Fallout 76 and mods, some of which have real promise, while others have turned into giant dumpster fires. And yes, I'm referring to Fallout the Frontier, which featured questionable content made by some people with disturbing pasts that have left the mod in disarray. Regardless, there's a decent chance by the end of this year we see whether or not Bethesda has learned their lesson. The once beloved developer developer has faced tons of criticism over the years with their game design, and many wonder if their upcoming RPG Starfield will address that. Only time will tell. Anyway, a lot going on in gaming right now. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below on the subjects that we discussed today, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.